It begins with a little boy Haruko who is leaving somewhere while his childhood friend Mai-chan does not want him to go and is crying absurdly. It happens to be a flashback memory of Haruko, who soon dies when a train crashes into the bus he was on. Haruko opens his eyes to another world where his name is Ryo, and the place refers as the Kingdom of Beltram. While Haruko has memories of his past life, he is still wondering whether fever made him think like this. But suddenly few people enter the house and begin calling him Ryo. Out of hunger, Ryo eats berries from bushes and remembers Haruko was a 20-year-old university boy who died in a tragic accident. Despite his memories, Haruko recalls that he is Ryo now and has to take revenge on his mother, who was murdered. Ryo encounters some royals who inquire him about Princess Flora and nearly gets lost somewhere. Responding as he does not know anything about her, he goes back to the home where he got attacked by the stranger. Suddenly, an illusion of a woman appears who teaches Ryo to use the magic power around him and defeat the person. After defeating the stranger, Ryo comes to see the kidnapped princess. Ryo is apprehended after saving Princess Flora and is suspected of being their collaborator. The knights torture him later in an attempt to pressure him into making a fake confession in order to save face after losing the princess. But he refuses. Ryo is beaten badly but has soon cleared of all allegations and given an audience with the king. Ryo gets admitted into the Beltram Royal Academy as a prize for rescuing Flora, despite being rejected by most of his classmates owing to his peasant roots. In class, Celia instructs Ryo not to overburden himself while Ryo continues pretending as he does not know how to read and write. However, Ryo's instructor, Celia, is the only one who encourages him. After the class, Ryo goes to meet Celia for a private tutoring class, where he comes to know Celia is only 12 years old and has already graduated by skipping the grades. While tutoring Ryo, Celia gets surprised to see his classwork where he has written all the answers correctly and further tells Ryo about Princess Christina, who is the only one in his class giving correct answers. Celia then offers him a cup of tea and guides him to some good children's books at Ryo's request. Later during sword practice, the instructor brings a test fight with Ryo. After getting impressed by Ryo's excellent swordsmanship, the instructor offers him to join the knights, which Ryo rejects. Ryo continues to prepare for the exams in the library while Celia appreciates him for his effort as he just enrolled in the academy. When the exam results come out, everyone gets shocked to see Ryo at the top with Princess Christina, but Alphonse accuses him of cheating. Ryo is selected for the Knights tournament, while Alphonse is not happy with the selection of Ryo and claims him to be a lowly person. While arranging the books in library, Ryo helps Celia, to whom she claims Ryo has grown up since it's 5 years. But Ryo mocks her for being small as she was 5 years before, which makes her angry. Later, Ryo shows his interest in visiting his homeland Yagumo. However, at the Knights tournament, Alfred and Merle, the referee for the tournament, begins the first match between Ryo and Royal Knight Charles. While Ryo takes his past revenge for being accused of kidnapping the princess on Charles and defeats him. While checking the students' remarks after graduation, Celia gets surprised to see Ryo's paper as he is the only one who didn't mention his after-graduation plans. In the class, Celia instructs students on how to control magic and use magical formulas, while Alphonse mocks Ryo for being the only one not able to use magic. On Celia's order, Alphonse and his mate implement lighting magic while Celia declares the magic lowly and creates multiple lighting effects which amaze students. Though Ryo cannot cast the magical formula, he can imitate the flow of magical powers and can reproduce magical techniques. After the class, Stuart accuses Ryo of flirting with girls while Celia scolds him for accusing people without evidence. In the outdoor practice on Mountain, Ryo not being able to use magic has given the task of carrying everyone's luggage. On the way on their journey, they come across goblin monsters while Stuart and his mate, by using Enchant's physical ability, defeat them in no time. The team under the command of Alphonse meets at the end of the mountain and comes across orcs monsters while the orcs' attack makes Stuart push Princess Flora, resulting in her falling off the mountain, but she gets saved by Ryo on time. Students use all their magical powers and fight their best to defeat orcs, but they plot against Ryo being responsible for pushing Princess Flora off the mountain. When everyone plans to proceed on their journey, Flora rejects to go and plans to find Ryo even though she has to go alone. Soon, the group encounters a giant orc monster, but when they aren't able to defeat it even with their Ice Lance magic, Alphonse instructs the group to retreat and run. Rio appears at the moment when the giant orc is going to attack Princess Flora. Rio finally defeats the orc monster, and when the group approaches Flora, Rio runs away before getting noticed. Meanwhile, a stranger is observing Rio while claiming to him the offspring of people from the Yagumo region and declaring it is the reason for Rio's spirit art usage. Celia overhears Headmaster talking about Rio's missing and blaming him for pushing Flora off the mountain. Soon after, when Celia is in her study, Rio appears, and Celia hugs him with happiness. Since the royals have planned to accuse Rio, he is going to skip his graduation and go to the Yagumo region while promising Celia to write her letters with the secret name Haruko. In his journey to reach the Yagumo region, he writes a letter to Professor Celia in which he mentions his arrival in Amon, a market town in the kingdom of Glark. It's been 3 days since he left the kingdom of Beltram, and while exploring the Glark kingdom, Rio sees a pasta stall invented by Lady Lyslot, making him nostalgic for Tokyo. To buy food for his journey, the stallsman advises him to visit the Rika Merchant Guild, where he meets Lot, who guides Rio to buy some food for his journey and helps him send a letter to Celia. After making the purchase, Rio leaves for his journey, where he encounters a beast person who intends to kill him, but Rio fights back and defeats her by knocking her out. While the beast person is unconscious, she has memories of her master, who trained her and made her a slave by putting the submission collar around her neck. Rio notices the submission collar and breaks it, but on questioning Latifa, he comes to know the person who made her slave was Stuart from the Baltram Kingdom. He then comes to know Stuart was the person who was ordering her to kill him by torturing her with the submission collar. After knowing she does not intend to kill him anymore, Rio then unties her and leaves her with her equipment. Latifa, scared of being left alone, requests Rio to take her with him, and after some thinking, Rio agrees to have her on his journey. Celia receives a message from Rio. Meanwhile, Rio prepares dinner and offers it to Latifa as much as she wants. While sleeping, Latifa mentions going back to his home in Tokyo, which surprises Rio, and he believes Latifa is also a person being incarnated from Earth to this world. Rio uses his spirit art to help Latifa sleep peacefully since she has another nightmare. Rio observes light from outside the tent, and when he comes out, he gets attacked by demi-human. Rio appeals to them not to attack and listen to him, but they do not believe humans and continue attacking. After they agree to listen to Rio, some demi-humans sneak into the hut where they find Latifa being slept with spirit art. They believe Rio kidnapped her. Yuzuma, in anger, makes Rio unconscious with her strong magic attack. Rio has been captured by demi-humans and soon gets left after Latifa requests them to untie him. They then offer their apologies for treating him badly and grant him a gentle room to rest. In the morning, Elder Ursula makes Rio explore the village and introduces him to the World Tree, in which the great Dairas, the spirit of mighty trees, reside. In the elders' meeting, Sildora introduces Rio to the two other elders, Ursula and Dominic, while convincing him to stay in the village, to which Rio agrees. After the meeting, Rio hears a woman's voice in the spirit of the World Tree. Lady Dairas appears at the moment and senses a person-shaped spirit sleeping inside Rio. Lady Dairas informs Rio about the human-shaped spirit, who is one of the 6 high-class spirits missing since 1,000 years ago in the Divine Demon War. Orphea then brings Rio to a house granted to him and Latifa. However, after showing them the whole house, Seirei makes them aware of their stay with them in the house. While Rio is confused, Elder Ursula approaches there and requests Rio's permission to allow Seirei, Alma, and Orphea to stay with them for safety purposes. They then live fully and enjoy their stay in the village. Meantime, Rias from Celestial Lion Brigade goes into a cave with a boy and steals a big egg and, on their way back to the Straw region of Baltram Kingdom, get followed by dragons. As Rio and Latifa have been in the village for a year, they have been granted a blessing kiss from Lady Dryas on the occasion of the Grand Spirit Festival. On the festival night, Seirei and Orphea complain to him for keeping their distance from them, but Rio, unaware of his attitude, thank them for being his friends and making him stay happy in the village. Rias leaves the boy and Griffin near the village and, after instructing him to take care of the egg, leaves to wait for dragons who are coming to take the egg back. When Rio informs Latifa about his departure from the village, she insists on going with him and leaves after getting upset. When all dragons are on their way to the egg, Rias enters the cave and hunts on the remaining eggs dragons left behind. Meanwhile, demi-humans inspect the presence of a boy near their village, but he runs on Griffin and soon gets killed when Rias cracks a pill. Dragons in search of their egg approach the forest and are going to attack the village but get stopped by Rio. Back in the village house, Latifa reveals to Rio her previous life, where she was once a Japanese citizen and is incarnated here after dying in Japan. After greeting everyone, Ryo leaves the village on his way to the Yagumo region. It's been 2 weeks since Ryo arrived in the Yagumo region, but he has not found any clue about his parents yet. He meets Ruri and asks her about the village head. However, she takes him to her grandmother, Yuba, who appears to be the head of the village. Ryo inquires her about her parents Zen and Iam, who used to live in the village 15 years ago. After Ryo gives Yuba details about his personal life, she introduces herself as Zen's mother and claims herself as his grandmother. She then brings Ryo to his parents' grave, where she informs Ryo that their parents leave the village in secret, and she will tell him everything when the time comes. Yuba reveals to Ryo about her cousin Ruri, who is 15 years old and is Zen's older brother's daughter. At Ryo's request, he gets to stay in the village for a little longer. In the morning, Ryo prepares breakfast and gets to meet Seo's older brother Shin. Ryo, with his magic and smartness, keeps helping villagers while Shin stays envious of him. One day when Seo and Ruri are having a bath, Gon intrudes in and begins passing vulgar comments. But he gets stopped by Yuba. Seo is staying at Ruri's place, and when they are sleeping, Gon sneaks into Ryo's room and begins assaulting her. But soon Ryo appears, and Gon ends up being badly beaten by Ryo. Ryo, Shin, Seo, and Hunting Master Dola travel to the capital of the kingdom of Karasuki while Seo and Ryo finally get a moment to enjoy Kamatan alone. Through a letter from Lady Yuba, Heiichi's father Gouki learns of Ryo and reveals Ryo's parents' past. Claiming his mother Iam was Karasuki princess. Zen was Iam's former bodyguard and a gifted spiritual artist, and they loved each other. He goes on to say that the Prince of Kingdom Rokuran desired Iam for himself, which led to Zen and Iam leaving Karasuki. The next day, Gouki brings Ryo to meet his grandparents, King Hamura and Queen Shizuku. Ryo comes to know Iam was murdered by Lucius, an adventurer who used to be Zen's friend. Ryo receives training from Gouki on the suggestion of the king before hunting Lucius for his mother's revenge. Ryo returns to Yagumo when the trip is over and pays his respects to his parents' graves, promising to go forward. Ryo and Lady Yuba inform Ruri about Ryo's being the descendant of royalty, and he takes the opportunity to announce his departure from the village following the harvest festival. It makes everyone unhappy, especially Seo, who has begun to fall in love with Ryo. After 6 months, the harvest festival is finally held, with Gouki, his wife Kyoko, and their daughter Komomo being the attendant. Gouki has fully abandoned formality in order to have a good time sumo wrestling with the peasants. Seo draws Ryo aside for a private conversation, confessing her love for him and inviting him to join him on his quest. She claims she's been practicing every day to avoid slowing him down, but he apologizes and walks away. Ryo bids Lady Yuba and Ruri goodbye the next morning. As he prepares to depart the village, he notices Seo waiting to wish him farewell. After Gouki gave her a pep talk the day before, she summoned the confidence and fortitude to do so. Ryo returns to the demi-human village, where the eldest, as well as Latifa, Sarah, Orphea, and Alma welcome him back after a 2-year absence. After that, he spent time with demi-humans. In the morning, Latifa and her friends wake Ryo up, but they see him sleeping with a naked woman, which shocks everyone. The beautiful lady emerges from her sleep and shows herself to everybody as Ryo's spirit. It turns out the spirit forgets everything until it makes its deal with Ryo, even his name. She refers to Ryo as Haruko, and on her demand, Ryo gives her the name Asia. Ryo and Asia then pay a visit to Lady Dryas and the village elders, who are all surprised by their equal elemental magical abilities. Ryo returns to the temporary house Dominic had him build after the duel. Ryo then announces his departure for the kingdom of Strahl after Latifa and Ryo recall their prior lives in Japan. While departing, the elders offer him presents, and Sildra gives him a magic earring that allows him to change his hair color. Ryo and Asia arrive at the kingdom of Strahl, where they intend to visit Celia, while Ryo later finds her in the royal kingdom getting engaged with Charles. Ryo is surprised to know the wedding news of Charles Arbor and Professor Celia Clare. As he and Asia start interrogating, he learns the truth about Charles's peaceful negotiation with the neighbor kingdom, Proxia, after the Beltram kingdom's defeat. Later, Charles sits with Celia and her father, but her father does not trust him and is against their marriage. Ryo with Asia's help sneak into Celia's room to meet her. She becomes delighted to see Ryo once again before her marriage as she loves her but lies to him that she is happy with the marriage. The following day, Charles introduces her wives to Celia dressed in her wedding dress. As Charles goes away, his wives start bullying Celia, But luckily, Princess Christina of Beltram interrupts them and makes the wives go away. Rio is standing in the crowd while watching Celia sitting with a heavy heart. Rio rushes to rescue Celia as they are about to meet the rest of the nobility and royals. Rio attacks them and appears to be a one-man army that destroys the elite troops, defeating Charles like a crumbled piece of paper. As Rio approaches them and punches Charles in the stomach and pushes him down to his knees while taking Celia as a hostage. He communicates with her using his telepathic powers and asks her to pretend like a hostage while running away. He hands over Celia to Asia and escapes from all of the guards to come after him. Celia and Asia are waiting outside of town for Rio to arrive. When Rio and Celia reunite and are about to celebrate the rescue's completion, they come to see some large lines emerging from the ground, and the anime ends here, leaving the viewers under the sharp knife of curiosity when at Asia's request, Rio goes to save people but gets surprised to see Mai-chan here. This is all for this anime. Give the video a like, and I will see you in the next minutes.